Hello, everybody, and good evening. We are going to get started. We are so happy to have you all here. And welcome to the information session for the New York State Teaching Artist Mentorship Program put on by the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. My name is Kinsey Keck. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Programming and Membership Manager for the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. I am a white woman with chin-length brown hair. It's pulled up in a half ponytail with a bun on top of my head. And I'm wearing a navy blue light sweater, and I'm sitting in my kitchen, which has a white wall behind me with a few different prints framed in the background. And I would love to toss it over to Kim to introduce herself as well.
Sure. Thanks so much, Kinsey. Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Olson. I am the Executive Director of the New York City Arts and Ed Roundtable. So glad that you could join us this evening on a wintry Wednesday. I am a pale-skinned white woman. I have brown, ever-growing hair, it feels. I thought mine was shoulder length, but I guess it isn't. I'm wearing a tan cozy sweater and clear rimmed glasses, and I'm sitting in front of a white wall with a piece of wood art behind me. And just so thrilled that we're here all today to talk about the New York State Teaching Artist Mentorship Program. And I'm going to toss it back to Kinsey just to give some Zoom reminders, share some features that we're using today before we jump right in.
Thank you, Kim. Before I get to those reminders, I also just want to acknowledge that although we're currently meeting via an online platform, we do work and live on unceded lands. So Mannahatta, or the place that is widely known as New York City, exists on the contemporary and ancestral homelands of the Canarsie, Lenape, Munsee, and Wappinger people. These sovereign nations and communities are still thriving here, and we continue to occupy their lands. We would like to give a moment of respect to them, as well as to the Black and immigrant communities, which have helped build the city that we know today. As we recognize that all of our past, presents, and futures are intertwined, we feel it's important to uplift some contemporary Indigenous arts organizations that we can all support and learn from. So I'm just going to drop a couple of links to them in the chat. And these are two organizations that the Roundtable has a previous relationship with. The first is the Lenape Center, which hosts tons of workshops, programs, performances, symposia, ceremonies, etc. And they're a really wonderful resource for anyone in the area who wants to deepen their understanding of the land that they live on and the Indigenous community that is here. And the second is the Red Hawk Native American Arts Council. It's also a nonprofit organization made up of representatives from multiple different Indigenous identities, and they offer a ton of programming around multiple different artistic disciplines to educate the public about Indigenous heritage. So please, when you have the time, get to know those organizations and support them if you can. And now we'll get to our Zoom reminders. So if you're having any trouble with Zoom at all, please do send me a private message. My name is Kinsey Keck, and I can help you from there. Please do remember to keep your mic setting on mute unless you are the person speaking. And we do encourage you to use the chat box to ask questions, connect with other people on the call, resources that are shared, and a recording of this whole session will be sent to you all hopefully by Friday at the end of this week. And that will include the chat box transcript as well. And I would also like to note that this call includes closed captioning. So to activate that setting, please just click live transcript. It's on the bottom of your toolbar, and select show subtitles from there. And I believe I said this already, but I just want to make sure I did. The session is being recorded. So you will receive all of that good stuff in your email in the next couple of days. And I think that that's it for reminders. So let me pull our slideshow back up. Oh, I also would like to note, oh goodness, okay. I also would like to note that we are missing a team member in this call today. So along with Kim and myself, we will have a mentorship coordinator that we're still finalizing who that's going to be, but they'll be the point person for this project and a new roundtable staff member. So you will have a new face that will hopefully become familiar to you in your time with the roundtable in the future. And okay, now let me pull our spreadsheet back up and share my screen. Great. See if I can make this full screen. Okay, so you have your important information there. Welcome. This is the New York State Teaching Artist Mentorship Program information session on December 1st. This here, let's see. Kim, do you want to take on our mission statement?
I can indeed. So I see so many familiar faces, familiar names. So as you may know, or if this is your first time with us, the New York City Arts and Ed Roundtable is a grassroots service organization working to improve and advance arts education here in New York City. However, our reach is oftentimes beyond New York City and extends out to many parts, if not all parts of the New York State region. Our main activities include professional development, advocacy, as well as regranting. So we are an organization that's extremely passionate about teaching artists in particular, and in looking at ways that we can support you in the essential work that you do and help sustain, find you ways to ensure that there's sustainability and advancement within this career and this field. So for this program, we are thrilled to be partnering with NYSCA, which is the New York State Council on the Arts. They have been a longtime supporter of the Roundtable, and also very much one that's a huge supporter of teaching artists. And so when we came to them and said, hey, we want to figure out a way that we can not only ensure that we are providing funding directly to teaching artists, but also giving them a way to help support their career, figure out their next steps, we are so entirely thrilled that they said yes and helped make this dream a reality. And as you can see, their mission is that they are dedicated to preserving and expanding the rich and diverse cultural resources that are and will become the heritage of New York citizens.
All right, so we'll just go over a little bit about why you might be here. So these are some questions to ask yourself, and I hope you can say yes to everything. Have you worked in the field of arts education for at least 4 years? Are you asking yourself what's next for you in the field of arts education? Are you interested in expanding and deepening your professional practice? And are you a New York State resident? If you can answer yes to all of these questions, then you are in the right place. And we're so happy to have you here with us.
So the New York State Teaching Artist Mentorship Program is a new program for the Arts and Ed Roundtable. And as I said earlier, this really is a dream come true for us. The goal of this program is to proactively help mid-career teaching artists from across New York State develop the skills, the networks, and the increased capacities necessary to support your career sustainability and advancement. And as Kinsey said, for the purpose of this program, we're defining mid-career as somebody that's been working in the field for at least 4 years. However, we all know that when it comes to teaching artistry, it's a bit of a fluid career. So if you're not quite sure, hey, if that's me or if it's right, send us an email. We're happy to talk it through. There are, I would say, 3 main components of this program. The first of which is that one-on-one mentorship with an arts leader or mentor educator. The second of which is access to professional development. And the third component is field hours. And a little bit later, we're going to go into a more specific breakdown of what that means in the context of this program. But also attached to this, we are thrilled to say that we are offering a $2,200 honorarium to each of the 14 teaching artists that are participating in this program. And this honorarium is intended to cover your time spent in the program, because we well understand here at the Roundtable that for teaching artists and artists in general, time is money, and any time that you are spending away from your residency work or away from your arts work could mean that income that's not earned. And it's very important to us that we are honoring that and providing you'll hear me say it over and over again, we think that you are essential workers and wanting to compensate you for your participation in the program. So let's go to the next slide. Let's go one more back to why now? So why a mentorship program now when there's so many things that we could be focusing on? To give you a bit of background, this has been a dream of the roundtables for a few years now. Pre-COVID, we surveyed our community, our membership, those that are practicing teaching artists, arts administrators in the field here in New York City and New York State. And we learned from that survey that 88% of our community said that mentorship and networking were among the most important pieces that the roundtable offered to them in their work. They were actually more important than any other service or anything else that we provided. Of course, then COVID hit and took a tremendous toll on the field and employment within our community, and really heightened the conversation for us on what does sustainability mean for teaching artists. From there, of course, we were fortunate enough to run our relief fund for teaching artists and arts educators. And through that, even despite the tremendous impact that COVID had on the field, we were really interested to see that 96% of those that applied to the relief fund wanted to continue in the field. Also, while this was happening, we started the List of Demands campaign for centering Black women in arts education. And out of that campaign, one of the demands around employments for promotion and advancement highlighted the importance for mentorship opportunities and for paid professional development opportunities. And so all of these things together really were what was the impetus for us starting this program right now. We know that teaching artists, your career paths have never taken a single route, that everybody's path in this field looks different. And so often we're required to wear many hats as teaching artists. I will say that I'm a teaching artist myself. I'm starting a residency tomorrow, so I well know what it's like to be a working TA right now, especially. And oftentimes that working as a teaching artist and being sometimes within your own individual silo, going gig to gig, sometimes there can be a lack of opportunities to make those connections or make those connections with potential mentors. So with all that said, we're really thrilled that NYSCA shares this goal to support teaching artists and supporting the work you do, which is why we are doing a mentorship program at this time right now. Let's move on to the next slide.
Great, thanks, Kim. And just sort of an extension of that, the thought process behind creating this program, these are the project goals that we've set. So the first is to help 14 mid-career teaching artists to develop the skills, networks, and increase capacities necessary to support career sustainability and advancement, as well as engage cultural leaders to become proactive advocates for TAs as they transition to more senior positions. And finally, to provide professional development opportunities to New York State teaching artists focused on the business of teaching artistry and the nonprofit sector. Before we go on to eligibility, I think you had another note that you wanted to make, Kim, or did you touch on that?
I feel I've made it. Let's keep going.
Great. Moving on to eligibility. So this is pretty clear cut here, but I'm just going to go through these, and please, if you have questions in the chat, we'll have some time shortly to discuss them. So please feel free to put them in there. But folks who are eligible for this program must first be an independent teaching artist or teaching artist assistant, defined as working with students in New York State public, private, and charter schools, colleges and universities, and or New York State community groups such as senior centers, libraries, religious institutions, prisons, veteran centers, or the like. And you must also be a current resident of New York State. That's all regions of New York State, but you must reside here. You cannot reside elsewhere and be working here, unfortunately. And then there's a star there just noting once more that this opportunity is intended for teaching artists who are not full-time permanent employees with a single organization. So if you have questions about that, please do share them. And then just to reiterate, folks who are not eligible are organizations as opposed to individuals. This is just for 14 individuals, folks not living in New York State, If you are currently employed as a certified teacher by a New York State school, so a teacher on permanent staff of a New York State public school, unfortunately, you're not eligible for this program. And current staff members or board members of the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. So Kim and I are not eligible.
I will say though, if you are a member of the roundtable, you are eligible. It is just our board of directors who are not eligible for the program at this time. So our program structure, I'm now going to talk a bit about the 3 components that are going to make up this program. The first of which is one-on-one mentorship. So each of the teaching artists or mentees that are going to be participating in this program will be expected to meet virtually or in person with a main mentor at least once a month for a total of 7 times. And we have a general timeline of when those meetings should take place. However, it's something that you and your mentor, as well as the mentorship coordinator, can help to schedule. So you might find that, hey, it might work better if we do 2 sessions one month, skip a month and come back. There will also be an opportunity to connect potentially with guest mentors, knowing that I know for me, at least, my interests are oftentimes very varied, and I might want to connect with a few different people. So each person will have a main mentor that you connect with, but there will be opportunities for you to connect with other folks as well as that comes up. Those mentor meetings are going to start likely in late February and March. And the way that those pairings are going to take place is once we have gotten our applications, we have a bit of a running list of mentors currently, but we really want to curate that list based on the interests and needs that you as applicants are saying that you would like to see. And we're very fortunate in that the Roundtables network is quite robust given our time spent working in the field. So I'm thrilled to say we're going to be 30 next year, 30, flirty and thriving. And so we have been really hard at work trying to connect with different mentors, ensuring that folks are able to find the sort of the right fit for what they're interested in really focusing on. And so those that are selected will be presented with a mentor roster of sorts. And from there, you will be able to select your, I believe it's likely going to be your top 3 choices of who you wish to be paired with. And we will do everything that we can to ensure that you get one of those choices. I will be transparent in saying this is our first time running the program. So things might come up along the way, but as of right now, that's what our plan is. And we will always, of course, make every effort to make sure that those participating are paired with somebody that it's a good partnership. It works for everybody involved. So the second part of all this is professional development. That is very much just inherent to who we are as the Arts and Ed Roundtable. And so the participants of this program are going to be expected to attend some public workshops that we will be putting on in January of 2022. So next month, if you could believe it. And the dates are listed there. It's going to be January 11th, 18th, and the 25th, likely for an hour and a half between that 4 to 6 p.m. window. If you're unable to attend those sessions, but you're still interested in applying, please email us at the email listed below, mentorship@nycaieroundtable.org. Please do not think that disqualifies you from being able to apply. We will find another way to make that work. But know that that is part of the program. Again, though, email us if you're like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to make that. Kenzie, if you could go to the next slide. Great. And then the third component of this is field hours. So for us, field hours is meant to be an opportunity for participants to explore either different arts education settings and something that's meant to complement their mentorship sessions. As mid-career teaching artists, we know that you have experience in the field. This is not your first foray into teaching or into this line of work. And really, these hours are meant to complement, to give you the time and space to be able to take on a new experience, and some that we've listed is doing an observation, maybe at a school, a community organization, seeing a performance, going to a museum, or other settings related to the delivery of arts education. This is something that our mentorship coordinator is going to be working one-on-one with each of the mentees on helping solidify what those field hours look like. We very much want it to be self-guided. So for example, if you think, wow, I'd really love to see a new exhibit at the Manhattan Children's Museum, for example, that you think that would be a good use of your field hours time, that's easily something that can be viewed as field hours. Really, as it says here, we believe that as artists and educators, we know that inspiration for your work may come in many different forms. And like I said earlier, we want to give you the time, the space, and the resources to explore that. And the Roundtable staff will be here to support you in looking for the types of experiences you're interested in. Again, this is where we are interested in tapping into our robust network, reaching out and trying to figure out, hey, if somebody says, I'm really interested in observing a class in a District 79 setting, we could then work with our Roundtable members to help find a placement or find a time where you might be able to do that. Right? See, let's go on to that next slide.
Yeah, I think you touched on this a little bit, Kim, but I just want to make sure that we got everything. So if you're asking yourself, who are these mentors going to be? As Kim said, we do have sort of a preliminary list that we're continuing to add to, so that they haven't all been selected yet. But when we have that list, the selected teaching artists for the program will be able to select their top mentor choices, as Kim said, probably about 3 from the roster of 25 to 30 arts education professionals, and that includes cultural leaders and expert educators. These folks will be from the Roundtable Network, which includes New York City, New York State, and other parts of the country. And we are curating this list based on interest and needs articulated by the community. And that includes you all. We're very interested in hearing what drives you to this program and what your needs are, and we seek to meet them. And by partnering mentees with mentors from outside their employee organization, we seek to spark candid discussion on the barriers and opportunities mentees face in their careers.
Yeah, so that's just important to reiterate, is we're not seeking to pair you with somebody that might also be your employer. We're looking to create new connections for you as a part of this program. So we're going to take a pause for a moment and see if there are any questions from the group before we dive into just looking at the application process. And feel free to come off mute or put it in the chat.
Yes.
Hi. I actually had a quick question. I was wondering, for this program, is there any specific project that we have to complete, or like some sort of I guess like objective, that besides like completing the roundtables and working with a mentor, is there like kind of almost like an assignment or like an ultimate project that we do?
Nope. This is really in service of you and your career. The goal is to help broaden your network, inspire you, and help support your growth in the field of arts education. So there is no deliverable that you'll have to complete by the end of this, aside from just meeting with your mentor, participating in your fieldwork hours. There may be a few meetings that we then hold over the course of the year, because we also want to create community with the mentees themselves, because we will take any opportunity at the roundtable to be able to expand each other's networks and put one another in contact with other teaching artists. But really, this is something that is self-guided, that you'll see in the application process. There's space for you to articulate really what's your goal, what are you hoping to get out of it, and that will be how the program is structured for you.
Hi, Aaliyah here. I'm wondering, hey, if that preliminary list of mentors you have, is that going to be made available to us, and might that inform the people or types of people that we might recommend? And I'm not sure if you said so, but how are you looking for us to make recommendations for potential mentors?
Sure. So we won't be publicly releasing that. It's something that we'll share with those that are selected. However, there's room in the application for you to articulate, I forget the exact question, but I believe it's sort of like, what are you looking for in a mentor? Or what's your ideal mentor? Where you can, of course, put somebody's name, but really what we're interested in hearing is what areas or topics are you interested in exploring with this mentor? What potentially artistic discipline is, if they are in their artistry. We recognize that teaching artists, some might be leaning more so into wanting to learn about the administrative side. Some might be going more so into higher ed, starting your own business, deepening your pedagogical practice within a certain aspect of arts education. And so that's really what we're hoping to glean. And then really the work is then on us as an organization to try to curate that list based on what you have shared as your interest.
Thank you.
Here. Let's see. I'd say if are there any other, we can have time, I think, for one more question now. We'll go through the application and then we have time for questions built in at the end. Kinsey, it looks like let's
do it. Okay, so I'm going to move on to sharing my screen again, but we're going to be going through the application now. So first, I'm going to take you to Roundtable's website. This is our site for the program itself. You probably have all visited here once or twice already, but to access the application, you're just going to scroll down to our little accordions here, how to apply. You can view a Google Doc version of the application questions here. You can also make a copy of that document if you want, and fill out your answers in there before going to the submittable application if you'd like to, although you do have the option to save your draft as you're working on the application. So we'll go into submittable now.
As Kinsey's pulling up that submittable, I do want to reiterate that Google Doc is not the application. Please do not attempt to fill that out. That is just a resource that we want to share with you. I know I will say for me personally, I like to sometimes have something separately that I work on before actually putting my answers in. Although there is a saved draft feature within submittable as well. So you won't lose any of your work as you're going along.
Yes. Okay, so this is what this page will look like. You'll sign in. I already have my mock account here. And then that's a project that I am in. Oh wait, let me go back here. Here we go. This is the Roundtables page. So we currently do have the cohort learning series going on as well. I highly recommend that you take a look at that. That application is due on Friday. And then this is our Teaching Artist Mentorship Program application. So when we get here, you have all of the things that we've sort of gone over already. The details about the application and any questions you may have can be answered with this link here. And then we just go straight into the application itself. Starts with an eligibility form and moves down. Kim, do you want to walk folks through?
Yeah, of course. So this eligibility form happens right at the top. That way you can make sure you're eligible before going through the process of the actual application itself. And it exactly corresponds to all of the eligibility criteria that we covered earlier in this presentation. So looking at folks are a New York State resident, identifying as a teaching artist. Remember, we are not, this program is not for folks that are a full-time permanent employee of an organization. Asking if folks are employed as a teacher, staff member of the Roundtable, and then again, nobody on this call, it appears, is a staff member or board member, but if you're curious to see who those folks are, there's links there. And then also just as part of this program, since there is a $2,200 honorarium attached to it, those that are applying for it, we will need to remit a 1099 to you for this project. So this is considered an independent contractor with the Roundtable. And so we're going to request that information to be able to remit payment. So in order to be able to participate in the program, you have to be able to provide that information. And there's more info on that in our FAQ as well. So you can click next on that. And yeah, and then this is our application. If you've applied for maybe our relief fund, Empire State Creates, our Black Women's Wellness Retreat, the cohort learning series, you have likely seen this format before. Kinsey, I'm going to have a scroll through that it asks at the top, just contact information questions. Then also asks about just proof of New York State residency, which you will need to apply. You need to upload as part of this. There's also a section for demographic information as well. And let's keep scrolling down. Then in section 3, is really just information about you as a teaching artist. Please keep in mind that this is a program for teaching artists. So as you're thinking about what bio you submit as part of this, we recommend having it be geared towards your teaching artist work, and giving us a sense of what that looks like in particular, versus if perhaps you work in another industry or have another role. Also, there's space for you if you have a website or LinkedIn to share that with us as well. That is not required, but just helps give us a more of a sense of who you are, and a bit more about your work. And then section 4 is questions about directly related to mentorship. And so, Aaliyah, to what I was saying earlier, that do you have a particular area of interest to address with your mentor? That's really the question that's going to help us right off the bat start to figure out, okay, there are folks that are interested in X or folks that are interested in Y. And we have a few different areas there, but by no means is that the final list. We know that there are many things that teaching artists might be interested in. So please, if you don't see it there, don't take it as, oh, we're not able to do it. Please, whatever you think would be most of interest to you, we want to hear it. Let's see. And then really I would say what's the meat of the application is in these final questions. And you may see, if Kinsey could scroll up just a little bit. Perfect. So you as applicants may choose to answer these following questions via written response directly in this application, or you might submit your responses via video. We want to give you the opportunity to do what feels right for you. If you'll notice though that those written responses are required. If you are choosing to upload a video, please just write like see video or see attachment. That way it just the system acknowledges, oh, they filled something out there, but no need to answer the question there. Great. Yeah, and these are really the questions then that our review panelists are going to be looking at, and I'll talk a bit about what that review process looks like in a moment. Yeah, and then so as you see at the bottom, there's a question around the professional developments, that you understand the deadlines. Again, I'll reiterate, if for whatever reason that you are not able to make those dates, send us an email. We are a flexible organization. We will work with you on it. And then you'll see below the save draft feature. I highly, highly recommend that as you're going along, make sure you click save draft. I would say Submittable is pretty good about auto saving, but we have had instances with applicants in prior programs where their application did not auto save due to a technology glitch. So make sure you press save draft as you go along. And I even also recommend just having it in a separate document. Always good to just have that as a fail-safe just in case. And then, yeah, once you are done with this application, all you need to do is click submit. I will note that the deadline to submit the application is 6 o'clock. on December 10th. So if you try to submit it at 6:01, it will not work. That is a very strict deadline. So please, please, please give yourself time to submit the application before then. We will not be accepting applications that are received after that time. Let's see, Kinsey, I wonder if you could switch back to our PowerPoint.
Yeah. Great. So we just sort of went over this, but to reiterate, the materials you will have are the application form itself. Within that form, you will submit your teaching artist bio, a link to your website or LinkedIn site if you have it and if you want to share it. And then also very important for your eligibility is your proof of current New York State residency. So we're just going to go over what is accepted materials for proof of residency. And we will accept any of the following documents as proof of your address. So that's a valid driver's license, a property tax receipt, posted mail with your name and your address, a utility bill, a lease agreement, an insurance card, a voter registration card, or college enrollment papers. If you have something else that you think should work, please do feel free to email us and ask us if it will serve as proof of residency. Just make sure you do that with plenty of time for us to get back to you before you have to submit your application. And we're just going to go over the application dates and deadlines once more. So the application is currently open. It opened on Monday, November 22nd at noon. Today is the information session, and the application closes Friday, December 10th, like Kim said, at 6 p.m. Eastern, and that is a hard deadline. After that process, applicants will be notified by Thursday, December 23rd, 2021 via email. And then, as Kim shared, the professional developments that are coming up quickly after that are on January 11th, 18th, and 25th from 4 to 6 p.m. Those are all Tuesdays. And then you'll have your mentorship meetings, which will probably begin in February to March through September. And that will be decided as we move further along.
Perfect. So funding. Those that are accepted into the program are considered our grant recipients, and you will be awarded in 3 parts pending your contract signature and the submission of relevant forms, your banking information, and the completion of our project goals, which is, for example, submitting our completion of your field hours, submitting record of your completion of meeting with your mentor, things of that nature. It will be very low administration is our goal. We know that as teaching artists, you are often administrators as well within your work. And so we don't want to pile too much of that on, but just want to make sure that we're hearing back from you on how things are going. We have record of the learning that happened in the space. And also just to be able to get the participants' feedback on how this program is going. Like I said earlier, this is a pilot year for us. This is a program that is going to continue with the Roundtable over the next few years, and then hopefully as a permanent fixture within our organization. And it's so important to us that we get the feedback from those participating directly. I kid you not when I say everything that we do is very much directed by the feedback that we get from community members like yourself. So even in the application process, as you go through or complete it, whether you're accepted to the program or not, please always feel free to reach out to either Kinsey or myself. Our emails are going to be at the end because we really want to make sure we're a service organization. We are here to serve you as teaching artists working in the field of arts education here in New York. Yes, that will be just part of the process and what will help guide. The payments will happen at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the program. Those payments will be paid out via ACH payment, which is direct deposit, or via check, something that we could work with on a person-to-person basis on what you prefer. Please note this income is considered taxable income, and taxes won't be taken out in advance based on how we're paying this award. So please keep that in mind as you're budgeting for the year. And like we said earlier, the award is meant to cover your time and participation in all aspects of the program. So for example, say you do go to the Manhattan Children's Museum to take in an exhibit, we expect you to use the funds from this grant to help cover that expense. That's not something that we're able to provide reimbursement for at this time. And then just the review process. How are folks going to be selected? Applications will be reviewed by a panel of 6 teaching artists that are based throughout New York State that really represent the diversity of our field in all aspects of that. And so they will review applications via the submittable platform using the following criteria, and that's demonstrated evidence of experience, training, and/or professional development in arts education, your articulated desire to take the next step in your career, whether that means deepening your work as a teaching artist or expanding your work beyond teaching artistry, clarity and being able to articulate personal and professional goals. Think of this as the why of why you are interested in this opportunity, as well as a sense of your commitment to this program. So the applications will be reviewed by multiple committee members. They'll first be reviewed by 2 to 3 committee members each before being reviewed by the entire review panel. They will also be reviewed by staff as well. So there will be several eyes on it as part of the process. And I'll note that this process will not be anonymous just due to the nature of what's being shared with your bios and with how you've articulated. We know arts ed can sometimes feel like a tight-knit community because it very much is. It's a small but large field, it feels. And just please know though that if a review panelist does know one of the applicants, they will recuse themselves from reviewing that application or being part of the process of speaking to that applicant in particular. And I will say that these criteria are listed in no particular order of importance, that each of these is going to be weighted equally as part of our review process. Great. I think, yeah, that puts us right at the end of our presentation. And now we have just some time for any questions that you might have.
Hey, Aaliyah again. I'm just wondering, like, I have answers to these questions. You know, you talk about in the review process the clarity of what the want is. But I feel like part of the thing that I want is like having conversations that might help me answer those questions more. And so I'm just wondering, like, I don't know if you have recommendations, if there's if there's one-on-one conversations that can be happening, or if there's like a panel. I don't know. I just, yeah, like I kind of just want some pre-help potentially to sift through so many of the next step wants that I'm looking for. Sorry.
You're of course, no, not at all. And please never apologize for being a parent. That is always welcome here. So I would say to be transparent about that in your application. I know from my experience having a mentor, sometimes it's just having those conversations with somebody that's outside of the work that I'm doing that gives an outside perspective for me to be able to think critically about what my potential next steps are is extremely valuable. And I think is something, it's okay not to have the answer of what's next, and that's really what may be the meat of what you're interested in trying to tease apart as part of this process, if that makes sense. It's okay to go into it with that sense of unknown. And I think, Neil, I saw you potentially unmute.
Hi, yes, I did have a question. I just wanted to know if you all are looking at sort of the range of disciplines when selecting recipients. So would there be a certain amount of visual artists? I guess it depends on the interest, but are you going to have a certain amount for the different disciplines is what I wanted to know.
Yeah, great question. We have no set number in terms of we must have X number of visual artists, we must have this number of theater artists. It is something that we'll look at when looking at the cohort. We do want to make sure that we have more than one arts discipline represented, but it will not be a driving deciding factor with the applications. Ultimately, we're looking at the strength of the criteria that we shared earlier. Sure. And Kinsey, has anything come up in the chat? Cool.
Yes. So we have two questions in the chat. The first is from Maureen. And on the topic of teaching artists and educators who are on the panel, do they excuse themselves or recuse themselves if they happen to work in like the same organization as the applicant that they're reviewing?
Yes. So before the panelists actually get any access to the applications, we meet with all of them and do an info session similar to what we're doing today, in which we talk them through the process of who they should, what types of applications they should excuse themselves from. So it's somebody that they might know personally or professionally, somebody they might have worked with, or might even have just crossed paths with working at a similar organization. So that is something that does happen, which is also why we have teaching artists that are from throughout New York State reviewing the applications as well, so that there is less of a likelihood that somebody has maybe worked with said applicant.
Thanks, Kim. Our next question is from Sky, who says, I'm curious if you can tell us anything about the topics for the PD sessions in January.
They're currently being planned by our fabulous Teaching Artist Affairs Committee. I would say to take a look at, I think just for a point of reference, to take a look at, I want to say like Summer School 2020 from the Roundtable, or yeah, we can follow up with just some general, how about this? We'll follow up after this with some general topics. They're currently brainstorming. It's some really incredible topics around teaching in a pandemic era classroom, fostering relationships with students, around the business of teaching artistry as well. So more to come on that. I wish I could confirm at the moment, but we're still a work in progress on the topics themselves and confirming the facilitators, but they will be fab.
We do hope to get that information out as soon as we can. So in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, that will be shared out with our community. Star asks, okay, two questions. One, if you are multidisciplinary, is there space to share that on the application? Can they select more than one discipline?
I believe so. If not, there should be a multidisciplinary section, but let me just take a look super quick. Yes, there is room for you to either select multidisciplinary or for you to select other and to write in what you feel best describes your art form.
Great. And the second part of that question was, are you looking for a certain amount of years teaching or experience or both?
I would say in terms of, we're not looking beyond having worked, being defined as a mid-career teaching artist, which we're saying is probably 4 or more years in the field. Not necessarily. We're looking at experience in relation to how long you've been working in the field. So we recognize that if somebody's been working in the field 25 years, that might look different than the bio or work and lived experience of somebody that's been working in the field for just 4 years. So we and our panelists are taking that all into consideration. And there is a part in the application where you're able to indicate how long you've been working in the field of arts ed.
Great. Let's see. Victoria asks, if we aren't chosen, could we reapply in the next cohort? Also, is it possible to do the program multiple times? So this is our first time doing this mentorship program, and this is separate from the Roundtable cohort learning series program, which I know is sort of confusing because we're running these applications simultaneously. But this is the only opportunity that we have planned at this time for the mentorship program. Kim, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I will say I'll add a qualifier to that for this year. So we are going to be running this program again next year. Surprise, you're hearing it first here. So if you are not selected for this to be in this initial class of teaching artist mentees, you are able to be, or teaching artists who are also mentees, I should say. You are eligible then to apply for next year. I think we are in transparency looking at what does it look like for those that have completed the program? How are you then engaged with the program moving forward? How are we creating space for you to connect with one another or mentors? And so I think that will be a bit of a journey that we're going to go on as an organization, but please know it is something that we're thinking about, that we don't want this just to be a one touch point. We want to be able to be here and supportive beyond this program as well.
Great. And then Lisa put a question in the chat as well. It looked like there was one choice for the way one might meet with their mentor. If that's correct, is it possible to have a choice of, say, in person and virtual? And so that question on the application is, how would you prefer to meet with your mentor? And you do select one option, but you can choose virtual, in person, or both. And on that both option in parentheses, it says if possible, because that does, of course, depend on your mentor and what y'all's situation is together. But there is an option if you're interested in doing both. You can select that. There's also an option to select unsure. So if you think right now you're like, maybe I'll be interested in meeting in person, but maybe situations will change, you can also click unsure, and that can be decided at a later date. Okay, those are all the questions from the chat. We still have 5 minutes if anyone has any others that they would like to share. How does NYC AIER define mid-career teaching artists?
For the purpose of this project, we're just defining it as folks that have worked in the field for at least 4 years. However, because we find it's hard to define mid-career in any one particular way, because the field of teaching artistry and the career of teaching artistry looks so different for each person. So if you're not quite sure if you fit in that mid-career stage of where you are as a teaching artist, send Kinsey and I an email and we can follow up and happy to chat about it. But I feel like really the benchmark that we're using right now is having worked at least 4 years, where this program is not for those that are just starting to work in the classrooms or that maybe have not yet taught. Or this is not a program where you learn how to be a teaching artist. It's really for folks that are already doing this work and are thinking about what's my next step as I work to refine, whether it be my artistry, my pedagogy, my administrative skills, figuring out what my next career step is. Everything. So if there are any other questions that come up, please, we'll stay on through 6 o'clock. But please, again, just a final reminder. So applications are due on Friday, December 10th at 6 o'clock. Mark it in your calendar. We will send a reminder to folks that have started applications where you have the ability to do that. However, we are unable to access applications that are in progress. We can't see them or save them, so you must submit in order to be considered for the program. And also, as Kinsey mentioned earlier, there is a cohort learning series that is also going to be running, which you are also all more than welcome to apply. It is a new program. We're just launching new programs left and right here at the Roundtable. And that is a 6-session cohort learning series, a deep dive into looking at trauma-informed best teaching and learning practices that will be done in 2 cohorts, one that's going to happen in the winter, which is January to February, one that's May to June. If you are selected for the cohort, you also could be selected for the mentorship program and vice versa. We are not excluding folks. So you might, if you apply for both, it's possible that you might be selected for both of them as well. And yeah, applications for that are due this Friday. Kinsey put the link in the chat. We're also happy to answer questions on that program as well. There's a $150 stipend attached to that for your completion. And also it's going to be a pretty informative class taught by the Bartol Foundation. Yes, the application for May is also due this Friday as well. It's a fairly short application. Bullet points are accepted. Also, so is a video, or if you want to answer via your art form, that is also welcome as well. Victoria, yes. I will take a look and private message you. Wonderful. So we'll stay on just so I can make sure I answer Victoria, but otherwise have a lovely evening, everybody. It's great to see you, and we look forward to seeing your application soon.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good night. Nice to see everybody.
Good night.
Nice to see you.
Good night. Thank you so much. Pleasant meeting everybody.
Yeah.
Likewise.
If I do have Pisces in my chart.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, I'm
course,
too late.
Please, yes.
Actually, I'm an immigrant, so I came to New York in 2014. After I came 2015, I took an internship at the museum, and I was teaching there for 4 more years. I'm sorry, I'm at the train station. I'm going home.
Fine.
This is so New York.
So, because before I came to New York, I was also teaching at my country. So including, it's like I've been in the teaching profession for 10 years, but in New York City, I would say after I finishing my graduation, actually I'm working for after I came to New York, it's been 4+ years as a teaching artist. So I was wondering if I eligible to apply, because is my previous, when I was student, I was also teaching. So is it even though I have experience, but I was wondering that does it include, or if it's just because I'm being in the New York for 4 years as a teaching artist is enough to apply for this mentorship?
100%. That we don't only consider experience from New York City, definitely whatever art count, wherever that arts education experience happened, that counts as well. So definitely.
Excuse me, sorry.
No problem.
Great.
Yes, I'll just reiterate that you are 100% eligible to apply.
All right. Thank you.
Yes,
And
of
also,
course.
I'm working on a organization, but it's a part-time. So it's been a struggle to get a full-time job after a COVID and looking for a job. So, and I felt like while I was doing I was working at the museum, even though I learned through my work, I always felt like I need a mentor to guide me, which I don't have. So when I see this opportunity, I felt like that would be great for me to have a mentor and really follow their footsteps.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's exactly what this program is for. It's honestly exactly what you just said. So please make sure you include that in your application.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, that's 100% what it's for. And I will also say that if you are currently looking for full-time work, do always check the Roundtable jobs board. We frequently will post jobs. I think we do it on a daily basis. Folks know that they can post to our site for free. And we also require organizations to share salary requirements as well as part of our commitment to pay transparency and fair wages.
All right. Thank you so much.
Of course.
I'm going to submit the application as soon as possible, and I'm really excited for it. Thank you so much.
So happy to hear it. Safe travels home.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.